So that would be quite nice to have a little bit of written something.
Yeah, sure. I will send to Esther the PowerPoints on PDF, and I will also send a handbook that we created at the Passage that explains quickly what is modern slavery, the types, and also what to do. So I'll send all of this to Esther after the workshop. No worries. Thank you. Thank you, Tasmin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lucy?
Hi. I am a volunteer at Upper Berkeley Street on the drop-in. It was very interesting last week. I just want to know more, that's all. I don't have any other ulterior motive. I just need to know more about it, that's all. It would be very helpful.
Absolutely, great. I will go a little. I will revisit what Dan said last week, just to refresh your minds, and then yes, I will go a little bit into the asylum system and comparing the two and what we can do as common mortals to help potential victims and asylum seekers as well. Thank you, Lucy. Hannah.
Hi, morning. I'm Hannah. I work for the United Synagogue. I work for the Chesed department, and one of the main parts of my job is running the asylum seeker drop-in centres. So we have two. We have one in Hendon, and then one in South Woodfords. We have about 130 families on our lists. It's been a busy old time sort of adapting our services so that we can, help everyone, especially during the pandemic. As we all know, asylum seekers don't stop being asylum seekers just because there's a global pandemic on. So that was an interesting time, but I'm really happy that this workshop was put on. I'm really sorry I couldn't make the first one. I was away, so I'm going to sort of do part two and then look for the notes for part one and sort of do it in reverse. But thank you very much.
Cool, you're welcome. You're welcome, Anna. And just by curiosity, what is the predominant nationality that you are supporting?
It's we've sort of got a top three. We have a lot of Nigerian guests, we have a lot of Albanian guests, and we have a lot of guests who are from the DRC. Our centres are more, word of mouth. So I think people tell their friends who may be from the same, countries. But we have, across our two centres, we have 24 nationalities. But I would say our highest groupings are maybe Nigerians and Albanians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Hannah. Thank you. I hope you will enjoy the workshop. Well, enjoy. It's a word of saying. It's not very enjoyable, really, but okay. Thank you, Isabel.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm a volunteer at the Hackney Migrant Centre, volunteer advocate. So I've just come along really to learn and to listen.
Okay, great. Thank you. Trying to go. This is moving. Joe.
Hi. Sorry about my mask. I've actually come to bring my daughter to get a COVID vaccine, and I'm sorry, I'm probably not going to be able to stay for the whole session. But I volunteer at New North London drop-in, which is based in Finchley, North Finchley, and also come along just to learn and see what I can take away from our drop-in.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joe.
Sorry that I won't be able to stay the whole session.
That's fine, no worries. As I said, Esther will send you the slides, that's fine, and some other material. Thank you, Joe. Myron?
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm a volunteer at the LGS drop-in, and also here to learn more. I attended the first part of last week's workshop, so shocked by some of the numbers and statistics that were shared with us, and really want to be able to help more and be more aware and actually be able to help.
Great. Thank you, Maren. Prue?
Hello, I'm a volunteer at the Hackney Migrant Centre and have supported some of our visitors, particularly during lockdown and the pandemic. I wasn't unfortunately able to come last week. I know very little, so I'm hoping to learn an awful lot. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you will. So, just to clarify, I am, sorry, I think I covered everybody. Is there anyone that I didn't call? I don't think so. No, that's fine. Okay. Yes, so I am, my work is on modern slavery, and sometimes our clients are asylum seekers as well, or end up claiming asylum during the process of support of as victims of modern slavery. But it's not my expertise. I'm not an immigration solicitor, so the asylum system is not my expertise. I will tell you, what I know based on my experience and give you some facts and but for you to have really more detailed training, it will have to be given by an immigration solicitor, because even legally, I would not be allowed to give you far more detailed information than this. So I think that I take it a little bit easy to take it in as well, so you don't have a kind of a law training on Sunday morning. I don't know if anyone can cope with that. So I am going to share my screen with you. So bear with me a little bit until I manage to do this. Okay, can you see?
Yep.
Yeah, can you see the thing? That's fine. If you can't hear at some point, I will pass a little bit, a little short animation and a short film. So if you won't be able to hear it, I think you will, but let me know and I'll work on it. So a little bit about the passage. We are based in Westminster, Victoria, and we are a housing and homelessness charity. And we advocate for housing, do housing applications. We have a preventative work as well, a community intervention team that goes out there and speak with rough sleepers. We work with people, not only rough sleepers, but also people who are sofa surfing and sleeping with friends who don't have a home. So within the passage, I manage the Modern Slavery Service. So concretely, I support victims of modern slavery who are homeless in central London. So not only they are victims of modern slavery, but they are also homeless. So there's trauma, lots of different levels of trauma going on. The service is just me and my colleague, the Modern Slavery Navigator. So we have two people, and the Navigator has been in place since September 2020. And it's funded, her role is funded by DLUC, so the Department for Levelling Up Communities and Housing, the old Ministry of Housing, if you want. And we are commissioned by Westminster City Council. So we work in really close partnership with Westminster City Council, is our main local authority first responder. And our services is really, we identify victims of modern slavery, and we provide support until they start receiving government support. So we give all the care and support that we call pre-NRM. So a reminder, NRM is the National Referral Mechanism, but I'll go into that in a minute, don't worry. So this is my colleague, Lindsay, the Modern Slavery Navigator. And exactly, after we identify the victims, we provide emergency accommodation, and this can be in hotels, in hostels, in bed and breakfast around the passage. So very easy for them to go to the passage every day, because we have a day center as well. We support them referring to health services. As you can imagine, most have serious health problems as a consequence of their exploitation. But we also refer them to specialized agencies, and we work really in partnership with all these agencies. And this means substance misuse, the hospital and HIV, sexual services. and also domestic violence. Sometimes our clients are also victims of domestic violence. We provide advocacy in the name of our clients. We represent them according to what they want to do, and we support them through that. We liaise with the police if they give us consent and if they request that. We liaise with the Home Office. We work very closely with the Home Office, again, if our client gives us consent. We refer them as well to refuges and deceased if they are in immediate danger of their partner as victim of domestic abuse, or to safe houses specific for victims of modern slavery. And then we work very closely with an immigration solicitor, which we have one, luckily, at the Passage. So, as I said, I changed a little bit the introductions. We've covered that already before. So I will pass you a short animation to go into the world of modern slavery. So do let me know if you can hear.
What do you see? There are thousands of slaves in the UK today. Modern slavery preys on the most vulnerable. And it starts with 3 little words. Want a job? Your heart flutters. It sounds too good to be true. But you want to earn money, escape abuse, educate your family. So you say yes. And then things change. You feel confused. There's less pay, more work, more control, until there's no pay, and you feel trapped. What do you see? The child asking you for money? Cleaning your car? The guy paving your drive? Or picking your strawberries? The woman working as a maid? Or in the massage parlor? It could be someone brought here, or the bloke next door. You won't see any chains, because modern slavery doesn't work like that. It takes men, women, and children, and makes them invisible. What do you see? Because if you can see them, there's a way out. Together, we can fight modern slavery. Go to www.unchosen.org.uk.
So Unchosen was the charity where I used to work, where I worked before the Passage. It was based in Bristol, and unfortunately, they don't exist anymore because prevention doesn't pay. It's very hard to get funding for prevention projects. So when I moved to the Passage, Unchosen board very kindly gave me access to the films that we were using to raise awareness of modern slavery. So at today, we're going to look at a quick refresher of from last week. And for the people who were not in here last week, I will explain again what is modern slavery. We'll go through the types of exploitation, the signs to spot, so the potential indicators of modern slavery, and the national referral mechanism. And this was covered last week, but I'll go through that again. And then I will explain a little bit what is the asylum system. I'll go through some facts and some numbers of what is happening in the UK asylum system. And then what can we do? How can we support victims who have no recourse to public funds? Sorry, there's an error here. So, and RPF is no recourse to public funds. And I will explain what is that later on as well. Please do feel free to interrupt me at any time as well, and ask me if you have any questions or you want further, or you want just to say something. So what is human trafficking? We became law, international law, in the Palermo Protocol in 2000. So it's a protocol to the United Nations Convention Against Organized Crime. And human trafficking is three elements. Do any of you remember what are the three elements of human trafficking, which I know it was covered last week? Yep, I understand, no worries. So it's three elements. There's the act, the means, and the purpose. And for us to identify victims of modern slavery, we have to understand what is the act, the means, and the purpose. The act is recruiting or transporting or harboring by the means of deception or coercion or fraud or threat for the purpose of exploitation. So let me give you an example. A rough sleeper sleeping at night in the cold, in the streets, he's cold, he's hungry, he's alone. And then there's that man who passes by, stops, offer him a drink, offer him a sandwich and say, you know, come with me, come and work in my farm. I'm going to give you £80 per week and cash in hand, and you'll be sorted. You can have a roof over your head and we'll take care of you. The rough sleeper accepts. Who wouldn't? And then they go to the farm and he's exploited. He works 10 to 12 hours per day, doesn't have days off, and is never paid. So you can see in here the act, the means, and the purpose. The act of recruiting and transporting and harboring by the means of deception with an offer of a fake job, with a fake offer of a job for the purpose of exploitation. And what we see really at the passage is that most of our clients were not abducted or coerced into a situation of exploitation. They were actually deceived because traffickers use our fine psychologists. They will offer you what you need. And that's how they use deception and as a control method. And all of us, what do we want? We want a home, we want food, we want money. That's the basics of a life. And this is exactly what the traffickers will offer. And then when the person gets into that situation, they can't go out of the situation anymore. So the act, the means, and the purpose. When you talk with people that you are supporting, or your clients or your service users, if you have conversations about their jobs, and I'll get a little bit later into this again, it's really, if you have the act, the means, and the purpose, and you ask, how did you get that job? What happened there? How much were you working? How long were you working? So you can start having these indicators of modern slavery if the person was exploited without ever telling the person about human trafficking or exploitation. Just have conversations about the jobs they had and how they got the job and what they have to do. So a case study for another example, and please do interact with me. So this is a true story of a client that I supported with different names, of course. So Sylvia doesn't remember how she arrived in the UK. She only remembers she was in a church when two men offered her shelter and protection. They took her to a house and forced her to work in various restaurants as a cleaner. One of the men raped her. Then she was placed in a private house and forced to work as a housekeeper. She was never paid and only given leftovers. And more than a year later, she fled the house and slept rough for several nights until she came to the day center at the passage. Now, can you see the three elements of modern slavery in here? The act, the means, and the purpose. I know it's Sunday morning, but please come to me.
Well, obviously the purpose is exploitation.
Absolutely,
and,
yeah.
You know, she's offered her shelter and protection, so that was really deception because, you know, she was, I don't know how much shelter she was given, or definitely not protection.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
And the act?
The act is, oh, well, I've lost it there.
It's
Recruitment.
recruiting.
Yes, obviously, yes.
Exactly. So it's really easy when you think about it's recruiting and housing by the means of deception for the purpose of exploitation. You can really see it clearly. So this is the kind of conversations we can have, very light conversations with our clients at first, to understand these three elements, to see these three elements in their stories. Now, modern slavery, it's an umbrella term, and it exists only, it's used legally only in the UK and in Australia. And modern slavery includes all forms of slavery, human trafficking, and exploitation. From last week, what types of exploitation would you think? We've covered already 2 in the previous case study. So what are types of exploitation, if you remember from last week, or just what you think it is?
Yeah, there's
Bars,
Sorry?
nail bars, and
Nail bars, yeah.
car washing.
Car wash, yeah. So that is labor exploitation.
labor, sexual,
Yeah.
and domestic.
Work.
Domestic servitude, absolutely, yeah. Any more that comes to mind?
Agricultural.
That is labor exploitation as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's various types of exploitation, and you cover the ones that we see most often. So sexual exploitation, labor exploitation, domestic servitude, forced marriage, debt bondage, forced criminality, financial fraud, organ harvesting, and child slavery. Child slavery includes all the types of exploitation before. Sexual exploitation, you know what it is. It's all the time the person is treated as a commodity to be bought and sold. And the great thing, as opposed to drugs and trafficking in drugs, is that you sell the drugs and that's it, they're gone. But with a person, you can sell them and sell them again and sell them again. So it brings a profit of over 150 billion per year in the dark economy, in the underground economy. Labor exploitation, like Lucy and Tasnim was saying, that this happens in the agricultural sector, in sweatshops, in factories, as a cleaner, in restaurants, in nail bars, and we've been seeing this at the Passage as well. Domestic servitude is the most invisible type of exploitation because it happens in private houses. You don't see them. These people are not allowed to go out. They work as nannies, as as housekeepers. They cannot escape because they're quite often their passports are tied to their employees, so employers. So if they flee the house, actually they will be illegal migrants and they might be removed or deported. Forced marriage, we know what it is as well. Debt bondage, most of them are bonded by debt. And this happens when a person, where the trafficker says, this is a great job that I can get you in London, working in a bar, give me your passport and I will pay for your travel, £3,000 for a travel that would cost normally 200 or 300. So I'll cover the costs of your travel. And then when you go to London, as you work, you'll pay me back. So this is perceived in the mind of the victim that they are bonded by this debt. And then as they go on and on and on, the debt increases and increases, and they are under the control of their traffickers. Forced criminality, this is when people are forced to steal or to beg for someone else's gain, but also it includes what we talk lots about now, county lines, when children or minors or vulnerable adults are deceived and put into gangs and go to coastal areas or the suburbs to sell drugs. The county lines have phone numbers, so the person who takes the drugs, they will call the victim, actually, they will call this seller, this drug seller, who comes to your place, gives you the drugs, take the money, go back home. And if they are arrested, it's never the gang masters, it's the victims. And we are seeing a massive increase of county lines and forced criminality of children. Financial fraud, for instance, that rough sleeper that I was telling you that is deceived into going to a farm to work for nothing. Well, they will say, give me your document, indicator, I will open an account for you. And then so you can receive the money directly. And then they never give them back the ID. They open the account in their names and they claim benefits. They say there's a person living in here who needs housing benefits, for instance. So, and they get all this money. Organ harvesting, which is the gorest, as you can imagine. People are lured to sell their organs, or they might go to an operation for a leg, and then without their knowledge, a kidney is taken. This gives lots of money. It happens. You know, two typical countries are South Africa and Pakistan. And last year, there was 5 cases of organ harvesting identified in the UK. And 2 of them were from children. So it is happening and it is here. What do you think are the top countries of origin for both suspects and victims here in the UK? Just give some ideas. Where do you think they come from predominantly?
I remember that a lot of them came actually from the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. So according to the modern slavery investigations and policing, the top country of origin is the UK. And this is because we tend to exploit our own. It's like the rapist, it's not a stranger most of the times, as someone you know, because you speak the language, you know the culture. So, you know, in Portugal, I come from Portugal, the top country of origin of victims and of suspects is Portuguese people. So this happens in all countries. This is not the whole world. Top country of suspects is the UK for the whole world. Is not. It's really on national basis. So we would really think that it's always happening elsewhere, but now actually it's happening right here, right now in front of our eyes. And that's why the animation says, what do you see? It's up to us to pay attention to that. So I'm not going to go through figures because I know they were given last week, but just for those who were not there, an idea, it's over 10,000 victims of modern slavery were identified last year, and almost half of them were children. And this is because of county lines, of the forced sale of drugs. And this is why the majority of victims are from the UK, like the suspects, because it's British, English gangs and that operate. Now, possible indicators. So a person would look disheveled. When you think, you know, a person, homelessness, what is the link between homelessness and modern slavery? Well, when the person escapes their traffickers, they are homeless. They become homeless, destitute, without documents, and they sleep rough. And that's how many we identify them as rough sleepers first. But also, when they come out of safe houses and they are still very vulnerable, they might go back to their traffickers and they might be re-trafficked again. But when you think, really, a victim of modern slavery is homeless by definition, because it's not because they have a roof over their heads that they have a home. So homelessness and modern slavery are extremely interconnected. It's all about poverty. So looking disheveled and malnourished, actually, when you think, most rough sleepers look like that. What are other indicators rather than just physical indicators? Well, quite often, if they come from other countries, they don't speak English. They don't know where is their work address or even their home address. And this is easy information that we can have without looking as an investigator, having these conversations with our service users and ask them about this. Because the indicators, again, they are not physical. You're not going to see people chained, although there are cases like that, mind you. But most of the people, you will need to engage with them with very light conversations about their lives to understand the three elements, to spot the three elements of modern slavery. So quite often they don't have ID, or they have false IDs because they were taken or they were given false IDs. Of course, they never sign a work contract, of course. So that's yet another very easy question to ask, or even for you to prevent exploitation. If one of your service users say, I just found a really good job, and one of the first things they're going to ask is, did you sign a contract? Because if they don't sign a contract, you are talking about potential exploitation going on there, or definitely not declared work. So as I said, they receive little or no payment. All the money go for their traffickers. They work excessive hours over long periods and no days off. They can't have sick leave. They don't have annual leave. So yet again, another question. Did you have holiday? When was the last time you had some holiday? Or when you are sick, can you go to the doctor? Do you have a day off? And this is without implying that the person is being exploited. You can already explore these things. They don't have freedom of movement, or their movement is controlled by their traffickers. They live and they sleep in the place of work, like the examples I told you, the example of the rough sleeper. They were sleeping in a caravan in the farm. For car washes that one of you mentioned, quite often they live on the flats, overcrowded flats, over the car wash. Domestic servitude, they sleep in the kitchen or in the basement. They have a poor diet. Quite often they have to wait for the families to eat, or they are just given little leftovers, or even some of them are forced to go and beg for food in the streets when they are not working. They are afraid of the authorities, and this is a control method from the traffickers who say, if you go to the police, I know the police, I will know that, I'll come and pick you up again and you're screwed. Or if you go to the police, if they don't have immigration status, they will deport you, which might be true in some cases on the top of it. So they don't have inappropriate clothing for the job. If you walk around and you see a construction site with people without the helmets and without their fluorescent jackets, well, that should ring a bell. Or if you see people working in a private house on roofing without any protection or any ropes protecting or anything, you should also question yourself and wonder, is this person being paid? So they do have unexplained injuries if they come to your day centers or supruns and you can see injuries and they can't tell you, they don't want to tell you about it. That should ring a bell as well, because that shows physical abuse or potential physical abuse. Quite often they don't have contact anymore with their families, they don't have friends, and this is why they are particularly vulnerable and dependent on their traffickers. Again, a psychological method of control to make them know or think that they don't have friends anymore. If they go missing, no one will notice. And they don't have access to medical care. So these are just some indicators in which, again, you can have conversations with your service users without showing them that you are looking for indicators of exploitation. Now, I'm going to show you a little short film, and you will try to spot the indicators. And after the short film, you tell me, what indicators of modern slavery have you seen?
Mời ở lại. Ôi này nè, mày đi làm cái này. Rồi sao? Giá tiền lại của đâu? Rồi sao nữa? Mày đi làm nữa. Lấy tiền của mày. Hiểu không? Đi vô. Mày muốn đóng phạm đây. Chiều mai này, bạn có đeo nó tới. Chỉ mày đi làm. Hiểu không? Hiểu. Nhớ đau không? Hiểu. Đi vô, đi ngủ. Anh ơi! Anh ơi! Anh!
Chưa có gì thấy thiệt sự nào.
Câm miệng!
Ra thiệt sự sao? Nói đi. Thôi.
Tao nói mày, tao giết mày. Còn sao nữa? Ba ma của mày, tao mới vui, muốn không? Hả?
Ở đâu vậy? Làm cái gì?
Xin lỗi mẹ, con đi muộn về bây giờ thôi. Sợ lắm ở đây, con lại muốn làm tốt cho gia đình. Cậu vẫn ở đây nữa. Xin lỗi mẹ. Xin lỗi. Bye bye con về nhé. Về xem bố. Bố khỏe không? Mẹ à? Mẹ làm sao? Mẹ. Mẹ nói cho con. Cho con mẹ. Cho con.
How did you arrive in the country? How long have you been here?
Anh sang đây bằng cách nào? Anh ở đây bao lâu? Anh nói đi.
Không biết.
He says he doesn't know.
Hung, right now, you are the only suspect and you are facing a serious conviction. If there was anyone else involved, you need to tell us. Now.
Hùng, bây giờ cảnh sát nghi chỉ có mình anh thôi. Chuyện này quan trọng lắm. Nếu anh biết ai liên quan, anh phải nói bây giờ.
Hung, if you cooperate with us, then we can help you. You need to trust us.
Hùng, nếu anh hợp tác với cảnh sát, họ sẽ giúp anh. Họ muốn anh tin tưởng họ.
Hung, you have to speak to us. Tell him he's only harming himself by not cooperating.
Hùng, anh phải lên tiếng. Anh đang hại chính mình anh thôi, nếu anh không hợp tác.
So, what indicators of modern slavery did you see?
Forced labour.
That is the type of exploitation, forced labor, forced criminality in a cannabis farm.
Yeah, well, he was captured, so he had no freedom of movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
And no place to sleep.
Yeah, sleeping in the same place where to work. Absolutely, yeah.
Physical and emotional abuse.
Yeah, emotional and physical abuse. Yeah.
You can see at the beginning that they have a verbal contract. It's not really a contract. It's just, you work off your debt and then we'll let you go and all that kind of thing. And at the start, you don't know where he is. They're not speaking English. And then at the end, you realize that they are in an English-speaking country, which is also one of the indicators, especially the whole no social contact, all of that. And it's very repetitive, and the no concept of time kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So not speaking the language where they live, no contact with family, and repetitive, that repetition, only given leftovers, only given rice as well all the time. What else did you see?
The drug, the chemicals, he was being poisoned, I think, probably with all the chemicals, with the cannabis, you know, everything living with it.
Absolutely. No protective equipment to work with all these chemicals. Absolutely, well spotted. Any other indicator?
Well, obviously couldn't speak the language, obviously can't trust anybody at all, including the people who are trying to help him.
Yeah.
You know, he's been beaten up physically and mentally.
I think as well, when he is at the police station, he's unwilling to give up names, or I don't know if he knows the names, but you know that he was working for other people, because there is that threat still hanging over him.
Yeah, absolutely. They absolutely, they threaten his family as well. So threats are really important, and that's why they are afraid of authorities as well. They don't trust them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And the very first one is debt bondage that we covered as well. Say, you know, your first money will pay to will be for me to, because I paid your travel, and then you'll make money for yourself, which is like he never saw any payment at all. So this happens really. I don't know if you remember some time ago, 1 or 2 years ago, that lorry that was found with over 33 Vietnamese dead people. So it potentially they would be exploited in cannabis farms like that. So they were completely deceived with, you know, they could come in here easy and get their lives in here, and then actually they died in transit. But if it is expected that they would have been exploited in cannabis farms or in nail bars, which happens quite often with the Vietnamese nationality. And they, you know, they come, you know, they are quite often, due to poverty, they accept these offers as well. And it's to pay, to help their families, to send back money for their families. It's not for them to come in here and be rich, not at all. It's just to support their families and their sons. So that's yet another way the traffickers use. That's why they convince them to come over. Sorry. Do you have any questions about the film or anything else you would like to highlight regarding this film?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a silly question, but are there any charities or NGOs in countries, say, where they have a high proportion of victims that help them sort of, maybe like you're doing with us, spot these indicators to potentially stop them from falling into the same traps? I know it's obviously a lot easier said than done, but is there much education or, I guess, workshops similar to this that go on?
Well, there is, yes, but you know, I know that Romania, because it's a big trafficking country, kind of, there's lots of organizations and charities in Romania working and raising awareness. I know in Thailand as well, but mind you, I don't know any in Vietnam, probably there are some, but even if there is charities like us and you know, talking about modern slavery, raising awareness, spotting the signs, it's very hard to reach people deep in the countrysides or really poor. I mean, we are in London, don't forget, but I don't know if in the Isle of Wight or whatever, they've heard about this kind of, they heard about modern slavery. So there are organizations all over the world fighting modern slavery and raising awareness, but who do we reach? That's another question.
The people you want to reach are maybe the people who aren't going to have access to these sessions.
Exactly, it's the victims because of lack of education or access to education, or even having the time for that, or yeah. And that's why it's poverty. That's what we have to tackle, really.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Why did it take 18 months for them to work out? They must have known right at the very beginning. They must have known he was a modern slave. Why did such a long time in prison?
Yeah, because unfortunately it's still happening as well. When you think victims of county lines, I delivered training at Medway Detention Center or prison for young people. And even the guards were amazed to see these films and thinking, oh, we didn't think about this before. And it's because they were not educated or trained, because they didn't spot the indicators. I mean, if they think because of the hostile environment against migrants, you think first they come in here is to take all our benefits, and the person needs to go to the detention center. And at the detention center, finally, someone who was trained in modern slavery and who spent more time with the person understood that they were a victim of modern slavery. And this is still happening. You know, when you see a minor, a child, just 12, 13 years old, like I saw in the prison, Medway prison, and they were caught because they have a knife on them, because they have 10,000 pounds and 10 grams of cocaine. And I mean, how the hell a child has that? Obviously, it was an adult who gave them that and asked them to go and sell it. Even if they defend and they think they are part of the gang and they are protected by the gang, they are not. They're being abused. The first thing that you think that, or at least the police think, is just like, no, they are liars. Prison first. And we do have cases of, we did have several cases this year, really, in that the person, when they escaped their exploitation situation, they ran to the police, but the police didn't believe them, because the stories are so incredible that the police are just like, yeah, right. So, and we do have cases, and then they sleep rough, they come to us, they don't want to work with the police anymore, and that's why we work with local authorities, with Westminster City Council, and they received a positive decision, and they are now in safe houses. But they first went to the police, so I do deliver training to the police as well, but it's unfortunately is the culture in which we are living that needs to change.
May I ask a question? And maybe we're gonna cover it later, but for example, yesterday I was in a coffee shop and the Deliveroo guy came in. He was quite big. He had a rundown jacket. His shoes, you could see the shoes, he didn't actually fit him. You know, he was like, they were broken and he was just slipped in. Obviously, I thought there was something isn't right about it, but I mean, this was a big man. In a big shop, like in a coffee shop. So like, what would we be doing to kind of speak to somebody, like, how can you help in that situation? Or even, I wasn't sure of what to do. Like, I didn't feel comfortable going up to him and asking what, do you need help? Do you need anything? I don't know whether we'll cover that later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're right. The deliveries through Deliveroo and others might be well exploited just because we want dinner at home delivered. And what you can do in these situations, well, you know what, there's not much you can do like that in a coffee shop. Quite often they need to come to you to ask help, or to our organizations. In the streets like that, what you can do is, like with rough sleepers or homeless people, just ask if they are okay. You look stressed, and are you okay? Can I do something for you? Do you need some help? Just that little question, and you'll see how the person reacts with that. You can also give away the phone number of modern slavery, or a leaflet if you have leaflets in this kind of material. But there is a modern slavery helpline as well. It's just like, are you okay? The person is reticent, like looking at you, like looking a little bit scared. It's like, just saying, there's the modern slavery helpline. I'll go online and ask help. We are here to help. But but the first thing really, it's to ask if they are okay, really, and then you'll see from there. I know it's not much, and really, we can't go on. It's an idea that we have that we're saving slaves. We're not saving slaves at all. You know, if an adult doesn't come forward, it's very hard for you to support someone, and is not saving slaves. And be careful with whom do you engage as well, because you don't know if they are being controlled by someone else who is there around. So do not forget, this is a crime, and the criminals are there. So be careful and just ask if the person is okay.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Yeah.
Okay, you're welcome. So as you can imagine, you know, the consequences of trafficking and exploitation are massive, and not only on the physical side, as you can imagine, but also on the mental health. And above all, it's very, my cases are all complex case management, that's what we call, because they have so much trauma as a result of their exploitation. And we really see very often, you know, psychosis and paranoia, but also memory loss. You know, when you remember the film, you know, the Hung didn't remember how he arrived, or Sylvia in the case study that I share with you. They don't remember when they arrived or what happened there because of the traumas, a result of a post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. They have memory loss. So very rarely you will have a person self-identifying as a victim of modern slavery and telling you the story from A to Z, you know, very, very rarely. So you need lots of trust building with the person, and understand that there is all of these problems that probably will need to be addressed first. So going to a GP or to the hospital, it's one of the first things as well to propose. You know, there's a hospital just there, or 999 for emergencies, but they tend to be afraid of the police. But hospitals are always very good places to send people to.
Could you tell me what Stockholm Syndrome is, please?
Yeah, Stockholm Syndrome is when you defend your abuser. You have this, you start having a friendship kind of and link to your abuser. This happens quite often when people are kidnapped, young people are kidnapped. They start defending the person. There are sex workers and their pimps as well. They say it's their pimp is their lover. They don't see him as an abuser anymore because of the psychological abuse that went on. So and because of this, they might as well refrain from telling you who are the people that are abusing them or traffic them, because they still think that they sort them out, actually. So yeah, that is Stockholm Syndrome. So now we're going to go to a second part, into victim support. Are you okay? Would you like to have 5-minute break before? And we'll cover the asylum system in here. But would you like to have 5-minute break? Yeah, okay.
If I want a cup of tea.
Yes, absolutely, me too, actually. So yeah, let's say at 11:15 in here, is that okay? I know it's a short break, but yeah, at 11:15, meet you here, okay?
Hi, Julia. Just checking in. Everything okay? Tech-wise and...
Yep. Everything is working absolutely fine. No worries.
I'm really not enjoying, but it's really engaging work. So thanks so much. And yeah,
okay.
You have a break as well.
Cool. See you in a minute. welcome back. So a little bit on victim support. Just a reminder again, you'll have all of this and in the handbook as well. So don't worry about memorizing it. It's just important to know the national referral mechanism, which is the system of the Home Office, of the government, to identify and to support victims of modern slavery. And it's basically in 3 steps. So first there is the referral. Sorry, I just came upstairs. First there is a referral. The second step is reasonable ground decision. The Home Office is going to give reasonable ground decision. And then there is the conclusive ground decision. So the reasonable ground decision, it's when the Home Office says, I think you may be a victim of modern slavery, but I can't confirm it yet. And when they receive positive reasonable ground decision, they then can go to a safe house for government support while they wait for the conclusive ground decision. So it's really just these 3 steps. We normally, when we identify a person, this is where we are at. And we have to find a first responder. There's just a set of first responders. Not everybody can refer a victim of modern slavery to the NRM. So once you find a first responder, they do the referral. We wait 5 days maximum, 5 working days, until the person can go to a safe house. So, and then minimum 45 days for the Home Office to provide a conclusive decision. Actually, that's on paper. In reality, it can be between 1 to 2 years, but the person is in a safe house at least. And it's exactly the same with the asylum system support. So there's 3 steps: the referral, the reasonable ground decision, conclusive ground decision. And the national referral mechanism, that entitlement, once you receive positive reasonable ground decision, you have access to safe house accommodation, to financial support, and to a support worker that will provide you support. So we'll make all the referrals, the registration with the GP, or access to legal aid, etc. It's important to understand that to refer someone to the national referral mechanism, the adult needs to consent. They need to give you signed consent in which they accept to be referred to the national referral mechanism, as opposed to children. Children don't need to consent. So if you identify a minor victim of modern slavery, you call child social services, and they take it from there completely. Also, if the victim doesn't have immigration status, is really advisable, and that's what we do at the Passage, to refer to legal advice before, because it might be more interesting to claim asylum rather than to enter the NRM. And this is because if they enter the NRM and they claim asylum at the same time, but then they receive a negative conclusive decision in which the Home Office says, sorry, we don't believe you, you're not a victim of modern slavery, well, the asylum claim will go that way as well, that's for sure. So you really need an immigration solicitor to understand the immigration status, where the person comes from. For instance, if they come from, say, Brazil, it's not a country at war. So you'll need really good grounds to claim asylum. So might be better to enter the national referral mechanism. But if a person comes from a country that is at war, like Ukraine, for instance, then claiming asylum might be more interesting than going through the national referral mechanism pathway. But I'll show you in another slide a little bit more easy, kind of how you can compare both. And also, victims don't have to work with the police. And this is really important because most of them are terrified of the police or of authorities. So they can enter the national referral mechanism without working directly with the police. And in these instances, we support workers are the third party, are the ones who will tell the police what our clients want us to tell them. But it's important to know anyway that once you do a referral into the NRM, the information goes to the Home Office, and the Home Office then sends the information to the local police where the person was identified, because there will be a criminal investigation with or without the victim. So this is important to tell this to the person as well. So it's really, you know, the person, once the good thing about entering the national referral mechanism is that they can go immediately to a safe house and be safe. And that is really crucial and important. Like I said, not everybody can refer people to the national referral mechanism. It's just this list of first responders. And I put the red ones in, I put the ones in red because it's the ones that I work most often, and is the, you know, police is police because we're talking about the crime, but local authorities, because that's why we have this partnership with Westminster City Council, in which we just call a person in the local authorities, and they will help us, and we're going to work together for the person to enter the national referral mechanism as soon as possible. So, and also hospitals, the NHS in England and in Wales are not first responders, which is incredible, and nobody understands really why not, because they are literally first responders. But no, if a victim is identified in a hospital, the hospital can't refer them to the national referral mechanism. They will have to go through the police or through local authorities or through any of these other first responders. And the Salvation Army is the victim care contract holder. So the Salvation Army is the one that has all the safe houses. The safe houses are all over the UK, and they are secret places like refuges for victims of domestic abuse. No one knows where they are. No one has their address. So the person can really, the victim can really disappear out from the traffickers. Now, a little question in here, and I know I went really fast from the national referral mechanism, but we're going to get back again. But do you know the difference between human trafficking and human smuggling? Do you know the difference between trafficking and smuggling?
I'm guessing the smuggling is that you, once you're in the country, you're free to do what you want, whereas with the trafficking, you are still under the control of your trafficker.
For instance, yeah, that is a good definition, absolutely. So human trafficking is when someone is deceived or coerced to transport to another place. It can be within the same country for the purpose of exploitation. Human smuggling is when you pay a smuggler to enter illegally the country. So you're paying like the boats, for instance, from Calais to Dover, that they do in those little boats, that the asylum seekers in Calais are paying these smugglers to enter the UK via an illegal route. So basically, human trafficking is a crime against the person, and human smuggling is a crime against the state. So if you pay smugglers to enter the country, you are an illegal migrant. And I don't like to use this term because no one is illegal. But for the state, that's what it is. If you pay smugglers to enter the country illegally, you are an illegal migrant. If you are trafficked to the UK, then you are a victim of modern slavery. So this is really, and media really confuses, media and the Home Office, Priti Patel, etc. They really mix these two terms very easily. Now, do you know the difference between an asylum seeker and a refugee?
An asylum seeker can't work at all and has no support, monetary or anything. Refugees have got they've got their refugee status and they can work a bit. A migrant worker, I'm assuming they're absolutely okay to be here, like the fruit pickers and stuff.
Yeah, Lucy, you're almost right.
Yeah, I was just going to say a successful asylum seeker becomes a refugee.
Yes, exactly. So, but an asylum seeker, they cannot work, you're right, but they do have financial support. So an asylum seeker doesn't have an immigration status, and a refugee does have an immigration status, and therefore they are entitled to work and entitled to benefits as well. There is an international mixing of these two in order to justify hostile environment policies, absolutely. And the Nationality and Borders Bill relies massively on false ideas of migrants as bad actors committing crimes, feeding the smuggling industry to justify making people illegal. Absolutely, Esther. I'm trying not to be too political, but you're too right. And that's why I always ask in the training the difference between trafficking and smuggling and asylum seekers and refugees and migrants as well, because the media just blurs all of this. And unfortunately now, this current government is also blurring it, and it's on purpose. So a person arrives, say, yeah, sorry?
Asylum seekers can have access to Home Office housing while their application's being considered, and
yes,
some tiny financial support.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. So once a person arrives in here, once they claim asylum, indeed they enter the asylum system and they have NAS accommodation and financial support. Absolutely.
And if they get their refugee status, then they have to be out of that housing within 28 days.
Yes, yes, which is very fast to do a housing application. Absolutely, indeed. Thank you. So, some facts about asylum. Developing countries and not the UK look after most of the world refugees. You know, the UK is just like, we receive so many refugees. We are one of the first countries. We're not at all. The UK only homes 1% of the asylum seekers and refugees across the world, just one. Now, give me your ideas on the biggest refugee hosting country in the world. What is the country that receives the most asylum seekers and supports the most refugees currently as we speak?
Is it Lebanon?
Nope.
What?
Close.
Jordan?
Sorry?
Jordan.
Turkey.
Jordan, Turkey. That's it. It's not Jordan. It is Turkey. They are providing safety to 3.7 million Syrian refugees, as opposed to us in here with 20,000 refugees from Syria. So it used to be the countries around Afghanistan until the Syrian war. So Pakistan and Iran were the countries that were receiving the most refugees. So the UK is not at all the leading country supporting refugees, and I suppose you all know that. Also, there is not such a thing as an illegal. That's why I really don't like to use illegal migrant. People are not illegal. And contrarily to what Priti Patel says, everybody has the right to apply for asylum in any country that signed the 51 Convention. So it's like, yes, people have the right to cross, let's say, from Libya through France into the UK and only claim asylum in the UK. And Priti Patel, what she says is that no. As soon as they enter a country that is not at war and that is safe, they have to claim asylum there. And that's not true at all. And this is all the new laws or the new laws and articles that they want to put into the Nationality and Borders Bill, which is absolutely breaching international law and regarding refugees and regarding modern slavery. Now, the British asylum system is very tough, and I suppose you all know that. In 2020, at the end of 2020, 49% of the decisions, of the initial decisions before judicial review, they were negative. It's like half of the people who are claiming asylum, the Home Office doesn't believe them and refuse to grant asylum. Like you said before, most asylum seekers are not allowed to work. And I say most because there is very little amount of asylum seekers that come from countries, from the EEA, for instance, that for humanitarian reasons you can ask for asylum for these people, and they can work, but it's a very little a number. Most of them are not allowed to work, and they live more or less on 5.66 pounds per day, like £5 per day. Who can live on this amount of money? So this is very tough. People don't come in here as an asylum seeker just because they're going to get really rich. It's because they are running away from horrendous situations back home. And poverty. Asylum seekers live in poverty in the UK. Unfortunately, since 2005, most refugees are granted with 5 years leave to remain. 5 years is not enough to build a life and to start all over. So every 5 years, they will need to claim again an extension of leave to remain. And many families, and you know because you are volunteers in these organizations, they don't even have the money to buy clothes or nappies. So this is absolutely a terrible situation. And asylum seeking women who are destitute, they are vulnerable to sexual exploitation and other types of sexual abuse. So, you know, why? So why do you think asylum seekers are vulnerable to exploitation and to modern slavery?
Because I have so little to live on, and you know, they're not allowed to work. So if there's a promise of getting more money and being able to support yourself, I guess, you know, that's an attractive offer.
Absolutely. They are particularly vulnerable to deception because nobody can live on £5 per week, and because they can't work, they are stuck. The only thing they can do for survival is illegal work or undeclared work. Absolutely. And they are one of the most vulnerable groups to modern slavery in the UK. So this shows how you might see potential victims of modern slavery where you volunteer without even thinking about it. So engage with them, ask them about their work. Are they doing any work? They might be afraid of telling you, but you know, notice if they have new clothes, for instance, or a new iPhone or new shoes. Just explore where do they get that from, and you know, try to understand without any, of course, judgment, and understanding that you are potentially speaking with a victim of modern slavery. So the asylum claim system, it's also by steps. So if they arrive by plane or any other port of entry, you can go directly to the border force and they will do the screening interview there. If you are already in the UK, you have to contact the Home Office and ask for an interview, for the screening interview. Of course, that everybody is absolutely advised to work with an immigration solicitor. Everybody can claim asylum and get in touch with the Home Office. But most of the people who don't have a solicitor, they will have their claims filed. So it is really crucial to work with immigration solicitors. Once they pass the screening interview, they enter the asylum system. And so that's when they have NAS accommodation and they start receiving £39 per week, which is that £5 per day, until they have an asylum interview. And this might be between 2 hours to 7 hours of interview in which the Home Office will go through all the details to understand if the person was in danger in their country of origin and therefore deserves the status of refugee on whatever grounds. And then they do this decision. And it says, you know, it's normally around 6 months. Well, we know that actually it takes more than 6 months for the Home Office to give a final decision. And we also know that almost half of the decisions will be negative. as well. And this is why we talk about the hostile environment for migrants, because the Home Office, above all, they will think that you're a liar, and they will try to prove that you're a liar. So for the moment, there is over 60,000 people waiting for a first decision in the country. And most of them have been waiting for more than 6 months. Then for half of them, the decision is granted, and you can do a housing application and apply for universal credit to start your life as such. But for the other half, the claim is refused. And so you have to go to appeal and to go for a judiciary review. And this is why immigration solicitors are key to do this, as you can imagine. They are the best ones to talk with the Home Office and have really the good arguments for the person to stay. After the appeal, many will receive a final positive decision, and here we go again for discretionary leave, which can be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, depending on the grounds. So on humanitarian grounds, you can have discretionary leave for 5 years, but if you are Windrush generation, as on top of it, then you will have indefinite leave to remain. So it really differs on the situation. But if all of this is refused, you will be removed from the country. You will be placed in a detention center and forced to leave the country and go back to the danger that you tried to escape from. So when you compare this with the NRM, there's the NRM and the asylum system. And I know that, again, like I told you, I am not an immigration solicitor. I know that this is very, very simplified, but I think it will be enough for us to understand and to have a kind of a little idea of how it works. So you can see it's more or less the same steps as well. So the first responder refers the person to the national referral mechanism. Then if they receive a positive reasonable ground decision, they go to a safe house and they receive support under the modern slavery victim care contract. So they are at the hands of the Salvation Army, and they are supported by the Salvation Army. During the time that there is a Home Office investigation about the case of modern slavery. If they receive positive conclusive decision, they receive 1 year leave to remain and no more. Then during this year, you'll need to get through immigration solicitors to ask for extension of leave to remain. But it might be that you will be removed after 1 year. And this is how we are treating victims of modern slavery and of this horrendous crime. On the asylum system, the same. First, the Home Office will have a screening interview. Then they can enter the National Asylum Support System, NAS, what we call NAS. And they can have NAS accommodation and financial support until the Home Office has that substantive interview going through all the details of why they are escaping their country of origin. Finally, if the claim is accepted, then the asylum seeker receives refugee status. So at the end of the NRM, you don't have any status. You don't have an immigration status. At most, you can stay in the country for 1 more year. On the asylum system, on the other side, you will have a refugee status if your claim is accepted. So this is why you need an immigration solicitor to explain clearly this to a victim of modern slavery and to understand what is the best option for them. Of course, if there are negative decisions in any of these systems, you will be deported if you have a criminal record, or you will be removed from the country forcibly, which is basically the same, really. So I really think that, is that clear enough? Does this help you kind of really comparing both systems and the interest of going through them and how they interlink as well?
Can I ask about the NRM? Can you go through the NRM and then, if that's negative, then claim asylum?
You can absolutely do both at the same time. You can do one after the other, no worries. But if you receive a negative conclusive decision, the Home Office is already telling you you are a liar. You entered the NRM, but we don't believe you're a victim of modern slavery. So if you lied on your case of modern slavery, you are potentially lying on your asylum claim. This is, unfortunately, that's how the Home Office works. And that's why you need an immigration solicitor again.
But then you can go to appeal, presumably, on both.
Yes, you can appeal. Yeah, you can challenge the decisions in the NRM and you can appeal the decisions in the asylum system, which is what happens most of the time, really. But it's very delicate because if they catch you, if they think you are lying on one system, they will think you lied on the other system, which is ridiculous completely. Do you have any other questions about this? No. Okay. So when you think about the entitlements, when you compare the NRM entitlements and the NAS entitlements, well, if you enter the National Referral Mechanism, you have access to a safe house, or you can just receive outreach support if you don't want to go to a safe house. You have access to NHS primary care. You have a support worker who will refer you to mental health support, to legal aid, to, for education, training. You have a support worker. You have the right for interpretation when you talk with the Home Office, and you receive between 40 to 65 pounds per week. 40 if you are just receiving outreach support, if you don't use a safe house, or 65 pounds per week if you go to a safe house. On the other side, the National Asylum Support, you have access to NAS accommodation, a little bit like a safe house. They are all small places. They are quite often houses, 7 to 8 bedrooms, and you cook yourself and no one is serving you. That's how it works. Unfortunately, because we are running out of NAS accommodation, what we are seeing now is that the Home Office is putting lots of people in hotels. They also have access to NHS primary care. They also have the right to interpretation when they speak with the Home Office. And they also receive almost 40 quid per week. So it's basically nothing for both. The difference, if you enter the National Referral Mechanism, is that you have a support worker. If you enter the asylum system, you have no one to help you to navigate the UK systems, and so that's why your jobs are so important. Volunteers are so important with asylum seekers because they have no one and nothing. So but both systems are really, there's lots of gaps in the support, absolutely lots. Now, most of my clients as victims of modern slavery and the people they support as asylum seekers, they have no recourse to public funds. They can't access benefits, housing benefits or universal credit, nothing. This is what we call in the homeless sector, no recourse to public funds. That means that they are destitute. That's it. That's the situation. And when you think there's almost 1.5 million people in the UK who are destitute, the only support they have is like my charities and the charities for whom you work as well. So this really increases our empathy to support them. When there is no one there, we are here to help them. And that's why they might trust you as well, talking about exploitation and work. So you do have far more chances of spotting the signs of modern slavery than a police officer, for instance. So we have no recourse to public funds. Most asylum seekers, many victims of modern slavery, the ones who are not British, and many migrants as well. So if they have, as Portuguese, living in here and working permanently since 2014, I have the European settled status. But people who haven't worked for more than 5 years in here, they have the pre-settled status. They are not entitled to benefits as well. They are also no recourse to public funds. So when you think about the government saying that all of these migrants coming here, or all of these people saying, it's not only the government really, but people saying these migrants come in here to steal out, to live on our benefits, to live on our money. Well, that's absolutely not true, because they are not entitled to benefits.
So are these people who have no recourse to public funds, are they the ones that where the application got was negative, or
no,
like
no, no,
it applied?
No, it's when a person arrives in here, they have no recourse to public funds. Like everybody, you don't arrive to a country and do a benefit claim or a housing application like that. You need to prove that you are legal again. But asylum seekers, during the process that they are in the asylum system, they have no recourse to public funds. All they have is 40 quid per week and NAS accommodation. That's it. But they don't have access to benefits at all. They will only have access when they receive the refugee status. So you need, for a foreign-born person like myself, we need an immigration status to have access to benefits or use public funds, basically.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, welcome. And, you know, for most the homeless charities and for hostels and stuff, you need to be entitled to benefits to have the right to a bedroom in a hostel, for instance. Now, the local authorities ask for a little pot of money from the Ministry of Housing to have specific rooms or beds for people who have no recourse to public funds, because we know that many rough sleepers have no recourse to public funds. So to take them out of the streets, at least this is the number of no recourse to public funds. Can we have some beds for them and take them out of the streets and therefore end homelessness? Now, support, again, I will send you this. Support to asylum seekers, in my experience, the best ever is the British Red Cross. They also have a modern slavery lead, but you can call 24/7 this number to ask for support, whether if you just arrived to the country, whether if you're an asylum seeker, you can get help from them and advice. There is the migrant help. So these three are my three favorites. Migrant help, the interests of migrant help is that they are, sorry? Yeah, okay. The interest of migrant help and refugee council is that they are first responders. So they can refer people to the national referral mechanism. So if a person arrives in here or an asylum seeker needs some help and support, if they call this number or if they go online on the Refugee Council, actually, they can tell them, I am a victim of modern slavery, and they will be referred to the other system immediately as well. So that kind of fastens the processes as well. And they are, as first responders for modern slavery, they are experts on modern slavery. Now, quick before a last little conversation, what we do at the Passage, step by step, as I said, is pre-NRM support. We support them, we help them until they enter the national referral mechanism. So first and above all, we provide a respite bed. And this is in hotels, or because most of them have no recourse to public funds, so they are not entitled to hostels. So we get them out of the streets immediately to prevent re-trafficking and re-exploitation. And we provide all primary needs. So that includes showers, food and food vouchers. They can come to the Passage for lunch and for breakfast. We give them a new mobile phone and a new phone number, so they cut contact immediately with the traffickers, and this is for their safety. And we organize a MAC, which is something that the Passage has been working on, me and the local authorities, which is a multi-agency case conference. It's kind of a MARAC for domestic abuse, but this multi-agency case conference. It's a partnership between all the workers that are already involved, rather than you passing time calling everybody to understand what is the situation of the person. Within 48 hours, we meet all of them. And so we know what is the problems with substance misuse, if there are any, if they have problems with domestic violence and domestic abuse, and what are their needs, if they have capacity to consent. We work with the NHS homeless team at the Passage as well, so that this really opens, and you are not alone, because it's so hard to support victims of modern slavery. There's so much trauma, and there's so much support from different specialist agencies that we need to coordinate, that it's really, you can only fight it when we are together, not alone as one charity. So once we have this multi-agency case conference with first responders, we address the immediate needs of the victim, the PV's potential victim, and the safety. Are they in danger? Is their family in danger? Is there other people still owned by the traffickers? And we provide an action plan. So we don't just send them to a hotel until we sort out all of this. No, we go to them the following day with an action plan and says, this is what each one of us are going to do to you or for you, and with the dates, so they know exactly how the process is, so they are following very closely the process to enter the national referral mechanism. Then the first responder refers the person to the national referral mechanism if they consent. And we do a safeguarding referral if adult social care thinks that there is a referral to be made. So with care needs according to the Care Act. And then until a person goes to a safe house, we provide support and care. So this is really the role of our modern slavery navigator. And she's a navigator because she navigates with our clients through all of these systems, and according to what they want to achieve and the outcomes they want to achieve. And then, of course, we monitor and we evaluate this, because we are at the Passage, we were the first organization having a modern slavery service for homeless people. So there's lots of eyes on us and asking for evidence. Is this a needed service? So that's why my role is to record everything and to provide the Home Office with evidence to show that, yes, we need a modern slavery service in the homelessness sector. But we also work with asylum seekers or people who just arrive to the Passage before claiming any asylum, before even knowing what is an asylum, what is to claim asylum. And so this is my colleague. We work, me, the navigator, and Helen. We work together in the same office because we work with the worst cases of everybody, the destitute people with no IDs, with lots of trauma. Helen, this is one of her clients. Most of Helen's clients are, so she is a migrant development coordinator. Most of her clients have been tortured in other countries and they just escaped their countries of origin, or they are persecuted because they are gay or lesbian, So most of our clients have also high traumas and they just don't know what to do when they arrive illegally to the UK. So that's why we work very closely with an immigration solicitor in-house. But knowing that what is the asylum system is so bad and is absolutely not enough to live with £5 per week, per day. So we also provide food vouchers to asylum seekers. It's a little bit like UN soup runs as well, because of course nobody can live on these on £5 per day. But we work lots with refugees at home. So they provide rooms for asylum seekers until they receive a decision. And what can you do finally as volunteers? Well, always use a trauma-informed approach. Empathy, that's why you are volunteers to start with. It's all about empathy and understanding what the other person went through or is going through indeed. like I said before, and I've been saying, you know, all of these indicators, you can't see them physically. You need to talk with them. So if you have doubts, just engage, ask them if they are okay, and have light discussion about their work. Have they been working? What do they do during the day? And never mention trafficking and exploitation. One, because when a person understands that they've been a victim of a very serious crime, we're going to go into another trauma phase, traumatic. It's a very traumatic phase for them as well, is when they understand that they've been used and abused by someone. Two, they might not know what is trafficking or exploitation. So just have conversations about their work. And if you spot the signs of, if you have suspicions that a person might be a victim of modern slavery, talk immediately to your line manager. They know their safeguarding policies. And also volunteers, at least that's a passage, they are not covered by the insurance as well. So it's really, if you spot, your role is to try to see and try to spot the signs of modern slavery. If you have suspicions, pass it to your line manager and they will follow their safeguarding policies. But do not forget that we are talking about a very serious crime. So you might have traffickers right in front of you that you don't see as well. So be careful, be very careful. And in any doubt, call the Modern Slavery Helpline. If you think you're spotting a sign, you don't have a line manager there, call the Modern Slavery Helpline. It's open 24/7. And they have, they use language line, they can talk, they have interpretation for over 20 languages. They can speak directly with the person as well. And they are utterly professional, as you can imagine. So, you know, what questions, a little last, 2 minutes, I don't know. Do you want rather to have a debate and talk a little bit about this? Or do you want to go through what would you ask a person?
I'd like to know what to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go through. So what would you ask when you ask them, like anybody else, about the work? You know, do they have, what is the work? You know, I've been working, yeah. I found a job, I'm working just some days just to have some cash in hand. Bling, your bells will start ringing. What kind of work are you doing then? If a person tells you nail bars, work in a farm, work in a car wash, bling, bling, your bells should ring and you should investigate lightly again. So really, just have you been working a little bit here and there? Don't worry, it's just a conversation, just to see how you're going through with that little money that we know they have. And then just like, what kind of work? And then you go from there. Do they have days off? Do they have time off? You know, if they have a medical problem or a health issue, can they go to the doctor? Are they allowed to go to the hospital? So it's really just this. If people, or you know, if you build enough trust as well, now how much are they paid per hour? If someone tells you, well, I just clean a restaurant at night after it closes, and they give me £10 per week, you know, that's obvious. There is exploitation there to start with, just exploitation. It might be modern slavery if you prove the 3 elements. If they were deceived for that, if they are staying and sleep in the restaurant. So again, you know, connect housing. Where are you sleeping? You know, there's really easy questions, you know, about work. What would you ask me about my work is the same. You know what I mean? Just like, what is your work? How much do you earn? Do you have time off? Did you sign a contract? Very key. Of course, they won't sign a contract because they can't. Asylum seekers cannot work, isn't it? They will never sign a contract. So actually, I just thought that as well. If you ask, did you sign a contract? And the person is just like seeing that you're starting to do too many investigative questions, just like, yes, I signed a contract. you know that the person is lying because they know they can't work as well. So they are hiding, which again should ring a bell. Is that clear enough? Is that motivating to kind of, you know, just really, and again, you know, do not forget that they might be, their traffickers might be there. We know that recruiters have been seen, traffickers have been seen in soup runs and in day centers. They go there, they speak the same language as their victims. So you don't understand what they're saying. So you might see a person who doesn't really look like the other service users and is just speaking with some people in corners. Well, go to the other ones who understand the language and ask, what are they asking? What is the conversation you have? You can do that, you know, and this is how we know they've come to the passage to the day center. You know, during COVID, there was a project called Everybody In, that the local authorities put everybody in hotels, all rough sleepers and homeless people. And we have on camera, on CCTV, we have recruiters who went to these hotels to recruit rough sleepers right in front of our noses. So be careful, you know, pay attention basically to what is going on around you. And if you see that the person doesn't speak, or you have someone else speaking for them as well, that should ring a bell. Be careful with volunteers who are like their volunteers, you know, other fellow service users are saying, oh, I can translate for you. You don't know if it's a trafficker as well. So it's just like, it is a terrible, horrendous crime, and you might be in danger. And that's why it's very important to talk immediately with your line manager, who will then have more knowledge and experience on how to do if you might have a victim or a trafficker. But again, if you have any suspicions, just call 999. That's what they are for as well. Do not put yourself in danger. So I think that is it.
Thank you so much.
Remember, sorry?
I'm just saying thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Here it is. Again, I'm going to send you this. Don't worry. So you have my email directly. If you want any advice, if you think you're spotting signs and you do not, to get in touch with me, don't hesitate at all. I'm always happy to help anyone. We also have our general email, so you can also contact us, me and my colleague, the Modern Slavery Navigator, me and Lindsay. We both have access to, we check this email every day. And that's it. And all of this confusion and lots of information, I know it was lots. And at the end, just remember, emergency, police, modern slavery helpline. And they will take it from there. Yeah?
Thank you so much.
Do you have any comments? Thank you, Esther. That's fine. Thank you. Thank you for being so patient with me. Do you have any questions or any comments that you would like to say?
Can I ask just one last question about
Absolutely.
the NRM? When you go through the NRM, and if you're successful, you get to stay a year. Is that what you said? And what happens after that year?
You have to claim, you have to ask the Home Office for extension of your leave to remain. So you're not asking asylum, but you're asking an extension to stay, to keep on staying in the UK. And that's why you need an immigration solicitor. Yeah, you have to go through an immigration solicitor. Yeah, they will use, the thing is that according to international law, that we ratified the Convention on Human Rights and the European Convention against Trafficking in Human Beings. We ratify them, the UK, and that means that the UK has the legal duty, the statutory duty to protect victims of modern slavery. So if they start saying, no, you can't stay in the country anymore, an immigration solicitor is going to say, you are breaching international law. So that's why you need immigration solicitors to have this at hand, this international legal instruments.
It doesn't then become an asylum claim. It's just another claim to remain. So you have to pay for the whole, all of that process as well. Yeah,
you do have to pay for that. Absolutely, unless the immigration solicitor, if you live on benefits or universal credit, the immigration solicitor will ask for this request to be paid as well. So they will sort that out as well. But otherwise, you'll pay £1,200.
Just conscious of time, just you know, just to wrap things up a little bit. And thank you so much for everyone for coming, and thank you so much again to Julia for providing such a comprehensive and thoughtful kind of guide to approaching modern slavery in our kind of respective areas of work and as volunteers and so on and so forth. I've learned so much, and I'm sure everyone else has as well. As I said, I said in the previous workshop, and I sort of said in the chat, these have both been recorded, and I will, when I have a chance, send around, like pretty soon, I will send around the recordings. I may have to sort of share them via links to Google documents that are public, because of the recordings, but I'll share the recordings with you. And I will try and get hold of Dan's slides from last time as well, if he's up for sharing those too, so that people can have this information more comprehensively alongside Julia, as I know she said she would send around her slides as well. I just wanted to say, more broadly speaking, we at René Cassin are campaigning pretty consistently on the hostile environment and modern slavery, and the way that it's approached in this country, particularly with regards to asylum seekers and people who are trafficked, is a key part of kind of the way that the government approaches migration and border policy. And one of the things it's done, I sort of referenced this in the chat, is introduce this legislation that's going through Parliament at the moment, which criminalizes people for entering the country in a way it deems illegal. And again, also makes it much more difficult for people who experience modern slavery to actually be able to be believed, because it doesn't have a trauma-informed approach to kind of declaring and disclosing experiences of modern slavery. The Home Office is incredibly, and basically that's just being intensified by the legislation going through at the moment, which will overhaul and exacerbate all of those existing issues. And I'm sure that, like, in due course, is as and when that legislation passes, you will see that kind of bleed through into the drop-ins. And I guess one thing I wanted to say is, as kind of a Jewish human rights organization, we are always looking for ways to kind of mobilize our supporters and kind of Jewish people to remind both people within our community and in the kind of human rights world and the government that we have a really important stake in this conversation, both experientially and just kind of in the, you know, it's a combination of history and just Jewish values, and being part of a broader kind of drive for justice, basically. And I'm going to link in the chat just now our newsletter, which is always kind of got different ways, kind of petitions, letters, and so on and so forth, ways you can contact your MP to challenge this bill. And please do sign up for our newsletter if you're not signed up already, so that you can kind of find out more information about that. I will also send round, when I kind of send around these recordings, I'm just going to send around an email with a couple of questions, and I'd love to hear just like a little bit of feedback on how you found these workshops, even if it's just a sentence. Please just drop me an email and say how your experience was, and if anything specific you feel like you learned that was helpful. And of course, if there are any adjustments we can make in the future when we do this kind of work as well, that would be great to hear. But yes, on behalf of René Cassin, and again, thanks to Julia, thank you so much for attending, for signing up. Do sign up for our newsletter. Do follow us on Twitter as well, at René Cassin. And Instagram as well. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. I'll close out now. I won't take any more of your time, but it was lovely to meet all of you, and have a great rest of your Sunday.
Thank you, you and Julia.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. And thank you for your work.
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Well done for putting it on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was so interesting. And Esther, thank you for organizing it. Really.
Thanks so much for coming, Hannah. It's lovely to meet you, see your face.
Yes.
I'll do all the emails.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, I'm going to leave as well.
Yeah, bye, Julia. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, thanks. Bye.